Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And this is part number 2 of getting the David Brown ready for the next season. And in part 2 we're going to tackle the hydraulic system and the gearbox. So before we start actually working on the hydraulic system, I just want to give you some technical data on the tractor itself. It has a total lifting capacity of 1,900 kilograms. Now that is the max, or about 4,250 pounds. Now that is a lot of weight for this tractor. The pressure of the hydraulic pump is limited. It's only 138 bar or 2,000 psi, and that might not be enough for modern hydraulic systems that we're going to attach to it. But in some cases it is still sufficient. Now the little drawback we have on this is that the volume that the pump generates isn't all that much. It's about 7.4 gallons per minute or 28 liters per minute, so that's not a lot. But nevertheless, so we're going to change actually now the oil inside the hydraulic system and the gearbox, because that is the same oil, and the total amount of oil that is fitted into this gearbox and hydraulic system is 22.7 liters. Now that's a lot of oil, or 24 quarts. So now the question is, when do you know when to change the hydraulic oil or the oil filter? Well, in principle, every 500 hours we should change the hydraulic oil filter, and every 1,000 hours we should change the hydraulic oil itself. Now some of the tractors have a warning light for the hydraulics, so there's a little red lamp on the dashboard that will lit up as soon as the oil pressure is too low. Now keep in mind that the oil is both for the gearbox and for the hydraulic system. If you need to top up the hydraulic oil or the gearbox oil, then you do it on the top of the gearbox, and this is normally where the plug is, but in this case there's a hydraulic return hose or tube connected to it, so we'll have to remove that one once we go in to fill it up. Now in your case that might be completely different. And by the way, this is a very good point actually to return the oil on the top, because that assures that the gearbox is not running out of oil or oil starvation. The gearbox has 12 gears, and that is a lot on this tractor, but I'm not going to get into the gears right now. But it's important to note that all the gears in the gearbox are oiled and greased by the same oil as the hydraulic system. And you can check the oil in the gearbox and the hydraulic system with a dipstick, and you have that one right here. And as it looks like for the moment, the oil level is okay, and it still looks pretty clean, but I'm very curious to see once we open up and drain all the oil how clean it really is. So the gearbox and the hydraulic system are using the same oil, so we need to have a suitable oil for that. And that's why you find on the market specific blends of oil for tractors, specifically for this purpose. What I have here is a 15W40 oil, and the 15 means the viscosity when it's cold, and the 40 is the viscosity when the oil is hot. It is very important that we have a good high viscosity on this oil, because parts will expand when they get hot, and you still want to have that greasing capability of that oil when things are hot. So it should become sufficiently liquid, but not too liquid. The second thing is that the oil that you're going to use has to have a good resistance against wear, so it has to be anti-wear, and there's lots of additives they put into the oil. Sorry for that. The next thing is extreme pressure. The oil must resist extreme pressure. Now typical gearbox oil you would find an 80W90. That is very common, but we can't fit this in because it wouldn't work with the hydraulics. So this oil is having extreme pressure resistance, so it's great for gearboxes. It should also be anti-corrosion, and one more very important point is it should be anti-foaming. You don't want to get foam on it. You don't want to get air bubbles in your oil, because that's not going to work too well for your hydraulic system. And then probably a smaller point is it should not attack any of your seals in your system. And this oil does exactly all that. But there is one more big benefit of using an oil like this. It reduces the amount of oils you need to have available to you, because I'm using this on the engine, on the gearbox and the hydraulic system. So all I need is 1 barrel of oil. So we are about to change the hydraulic oil. Now on some of these tractors you will find the hydraulic filter on the outside, so on top of the casing. And that's easy because you don't need to drain the hydraulics oil out of the casing. Others have the hydraulic filter, and this is one fitted on the bottom inside the casing. So we need to remove actually that whole cover where the filter is in, and before you can do so you will have to drain all the oil out of it. So that actually means if you're going to change these filters every 500 hours, you need to drain the oil, collect it, and then put it back in after you filtered it, because you don't want to change the oil every 500 hours. You only change it every 1,000 hours. So we're going to do that, and I also have a new seal for that cover. So you'll see all this in a few minutes. So I would say let's get greasy. At the bottom of the gearbox you will find this enclosure, and this enclosure is actually where this filter is sitting at the inside. So now we'll have to drain first of all the oil out of it, and there's a plug here which we have to undo. And once we have drained all the hydraulic oil, we'll then have to remove the bolts here to remove this whole enclosure to get actually to that filter. So that's a little bit of work, and it's a grease monkey job, I would say. So I think I'm going to spoil the place again, but okay, it is what it is. So if you're going to do this, you have to make sure that you have a container or a reservoir that can hold actually the all the oil which is going to come out, because that's a lot of oil. So it's about 22.7 liters, so that's a lot of oil. So let's try to undo this one and then see what comes out of it. All right, so I'm going to use the socket on it, and what I notice is that the edges of the nut are a bit rounded off, so I'm going to knock it on gently, because in the worst case, if I can't get it off, then yeah, it's going to be really messy to undo all this. Alright, so gonna go real slow on this. There we go. That went quite easy. So now let's see if we can catch it, right? Oops. Almost missed it. It was, how they say it? No, I don't want to say it. It was pissing a little bit too far. And here is that plug. So I'm going to put that aside. Well, I have to say the oil looks still reasonably clean. It's not very clear, but it's not too bad. I expected it to be worse than that. So I'm going to let it drain now, and then we'll take off the whole enclosure. So make sure that you have a second spare container just in case your main one is going to overflow. This one is a 20-liter one, so if it was really filled up as it's supposed to be, then I'm going to hit around 27 liters. So this will be fully filled up. In fact, it will overflow. So that's why I want to have this one ready. But the way it's running right now, it doesn't look like it. I rather think we're going to be around maybe 17 liters or something like this. Anyhow, I'm going to let it run, and then we continue. It looks like I don't even have 26, 27 liters in it anymore, but more something like 18, 17. Anyhow, if you're interested in the working of the hydraulics on this David Brown, then have a look on my channel. I have a playlist all about the hydraulics, how they operate with schematics and so on. I'm still planning to make one whereby we go into explain and adjust everything, but that's coming for later. I can't do everything at the same time, and I know many of you are eager to see Old Rusty. Well, tell you what though, Old Rusty is coming. I know I've been saying it for a while, but it is really coming. This tractor is the last one before Old Rusty is back on YouTube. But I have to set my priorities, guys. I guess you all have wives or girlfriends, so you know what priorities are. See you in a few minutes. So it looks like we have reached the level where almost all the oil is out, so I'm going to put back this plug because now we're going to undo the enclosure. So when I remove the cover and I'm going to tilt it a bit, it doesn't come all over me. So now I need to get my socket off. I need to move this guy out of the way a bit. All right. There we go. Now, let's see what we need. Okay, so these are about 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess it's about 8 bolts to undo. It shouldn't be that hard. So let me start undoing these bolts here now, and then you guys can have a look on it. And I'm sure I'm going to make a bit of a mess again, but let's see. All right, that's one. Now I'm not going to keep you guys busy watching me doing all these bolts. So there's a bit of dirt on the back, so let's scrape that off first, and then we continue. And I really hope the pot is not going to fall off, because then I will be in deep trouble. I will be covered all under oil most likely if that happens, but I don't think it will happen. So let's see. Okay. Now the last one goes off. I'm going to hold it, and I think it's going to come off quite easily. Okay. Well, looks like a rain curtain of oil. Okay, so here is the filter, guys. And there it is, the filter. It looks a bit dirty, so now I need to try to get it off. And there we go. That went quite easy. Okay, and here is the seal. We have a new one for that one anyway. And here is the filter, and you can see all the debris on the side here. It looks pretty shitty if you ask me. Now, at the bottom, we've got this kind of zift, so we need to take this off. So there we go. So this is the actual filter that we can toss away, and this is the zift. And that's the one we're going to clean up as much as we can. And this we'll dispose of. We just throw it in the ditch. No, not really. We just take care of it in the container park. So let me clean up this zift here, and then we'll put it all back together. Now, to clean this, you can use whatever you want. You can use some petroleum or some brake cleaner, whatever degreases and takes away all the junk. So that should be good. So I think this is now looking pretty clean inside. So I'm going to blow it out, and then we put it aside. Cleaned up everything, as you can see. Now it's all clean inside. We've got the new seal that goes on, and we got the new filter that goes in. But obviously we still have to mount this zift on the bottom of the filter, so that's what we're going to do first, and then we'll put it all back together. So here's the filter. Let's see if we can get the zift in. That should just work just fine. Shouldn't be very hard to get it in, and that's in, so that's good. In fact, this zift has a valve inside. I forgot to show you that, but you might have seen that spring that we had inside. Well, that's where the valve is actually sitting. So there we go. So we are about ready now to put it all back together. So this looks pretty good. Before I'm going to install the filter and the filter housing on the tractor, I'm going to clean that surface as much as I can, because I don't want to have any leaks. So let's start crawling under the tractor again and clean up that surface. I'm using just a sharp blade and just trying to get all the debris off that's on the sides, and it's actually more dirt than anything else. Well, that looks pretty good now. You want to have this really nice, so I'm going to spray some cleaner on it. Excuse me, guys. All right, and then let's clean it up. I think this is really nice and clean now. This is the new seal, and I'm going to pre-position it with some, well, it isn't silicone, but joint kit, and that will help me keeping it in place. And that's all I want. It doesn't have to be a hell of a lot. I just want to use it so it's not moving while we're installing it. You don't want to use too much of this because you don't want this to get into your hydraulic system. All right. And let's try to position that properly. Okay, so all the holes really line up. Just putting the bolts through so I know it will fit. I have oiled a bit the ring here, so that should go in quite easily and smoothly now. There we go, and that filter is in, as it should be. So now we can install the pot. So here is that pot, and we're going to put it in like so. Okay, that's number one. So I'm going to put a couple of bolts up and see if all aligns. It's a pretty good exercise to stay fit, you know, crawling under tractors and cars. My girlfriend often tells me that I'm kind of fit and elastic, but now you know why that is, you know. So now I'm just going to lock them by hand all around. And then we'll apply the torque to it. That's one. So I'm going to give it a bit more. I'm going to give it like 2 kilograms. 1.5, 1.7, 2. There we go. And that should be it. So filling it back up with oil, you typically do it from the top here. Now in this case, I can't because the plug that you normally have here to fill up the oil is occupied with a return tube of the hydraulic system. So what I need to do now is actually just to unlock this tube, and then we can actually pour it in from over here. So let's do that. I just lighted up the gator here, and you always got to make sure that the gate is really close up, so it's good to seal them off because you don't want to get water inside because it's going to get inside your hydraulic oil. So let me undo this nut here and then see if we can actually fill it up from this side. Oh, it works pretty easily. All right, so that's out of the way. That's a teeny little bit of a hole honestly, to fill in some oil. This is going to take forever. I'm going to try to get this off here, the bigger plug. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but let's try it. Okay, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but sometimes people do crazy stuff to tractors. I mean, like in this case, this is like, man, unbelievable. So let's see if we can get the plug out, maybe with a chisel, and try to rotate it. Well, it's turning, that's the good thing. All right, there we go. Just clean it up. Now I have a hole where I can fill up the actual oil. Let's fill it up. So this is going to take a little bit of time, so here goes the first 5 liters. And I need 22.7 liters, or 24 quarts. That's a lot of oil. And we're going to put back this plug, and for now I'm not going to reconnect the return because I still have to fix the hydraulic system anyhow, so for the hatch trimmer. But of course I don't want to leave it open as it is, so I'm going to just put it on there so we don't get debris in it. So that's the only thing I want to do with this, so connect it loosely. There we go. And of course I'm going to put back the gator. And we'll make sure we put a tie wrap around this because this is too important. So we are done. We have installed a new filter. We added the oil to it, and now we're going to give it a try and see what the light is doing, if the tractor is happy with it. I would be surprised if he was not, but then again, you never know. So let's see. The light is on, but that's normal because the oil still needs to be sucked up. And now it goes off, so it's good. Light is off. It takes a while for the oil to be sucked up. So guys, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And in the next video, we're going to fit the hydraulic hatch on the front on the tractor, and for that I have to do some work on the bonnet, and we have to make some attachments, and then finally we're going to install the new hydraulic system for the hatch, the joysticks, and so on. So, see you next time.